ABC 10 News at 11 starts now.
A plane left in pieces crashing moments after taking off in Kearney Mesa. Good evening. I'm Steve Atkinson.
And I'm Kimberly Hunt. 2 people were taken to the hospital. ABC 10 News reporter Anthony PURA is near the scene, and officials say they're shocked this didn't end much worse. Anthony.
The plane crashed on the property of Kyocera. Based on the condition of the plane, officials were surprised to find the men conscious and talking when they found them. This is video shot by our ABC 10 News breaking news tracker, arriving on scene shortly after the single-engine plane crashed around 4:30 p.m. Thursday.
You can see that when they hit, they basically hit down, flipped up, and then it landed like that. Both the wings were crushed into themselves on it, and the whole front of the plane's gone.
Battalion Chief Dan Eddy with San Diego Fire Rescue says there were 2 men on board the plane.
They were both talking to us or verbalizing with us, which is a great sign. I don't know the extent of their injuries right now. They're both major traumas.
Both men were taken to the hospital. Officials say the plane took off from Montgomery Field Airport before crashing behind this building owned by Kyocera on Balboa Avenue and Highway 163.
They had originally just started to take off, and they had some sort of problem. We don't know what that is, and so they basically tried to turn around to catch the airport to do an emergency landing.
The plane didn't make it back to the airport. It appears to have crashed into 2 trees as it lost altitude, ending up about 20 feet from the building.
See, the back of Kyocera right here had a huge high voltage area. It also had a power cell area, and it also had multiple hazardous materials on the back that if that plane would have hit it, we would have had ourselves a completely different outcome than what we had today.
Investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board are looking into what caused the crash. Anthony PURA, ABC 10 News.
Also tonight, night 2 of protests continue around the country after the 3 officers involved in the death of Breonna Taylor were not charged directly in her death. In Louisville, Kentucky tonight, it was fairly calm after 2 officers were shot last night. In Los Angeles, at least 2 cars were spotted driving through a crowd of protesters in Hollywood. The driver of that Prius blew through the crowd and was later attacked by protesters and detained by police. Another person was taken to the hospital after a similar incident. And protests also continued here in downtown. Dozens took to the streets with signs calling for justice. Less than an hour ago, San Diego police posted this on Twitter that the protest ended peacefully. Our ABC 10 News reporter Laura Acevedo shows us how protesters shared their message, and we do want to warn you, some of these images may be disturbing.
Protesters gathered at 16th and C and then headed in this direction on 16th Street, heading in the direction of police headquarters, chanting Breonna Taylor's name the entire way. The protest started with 30 to 40 people, but as night fell, the crowd grew closer to 100. Protesters marched through the streets of downtown, followed closely by San Diego police in patrol cars, motorcycles, and bicycles. In Louisville, a curfew in effect as protesters vowed to continue protesting until they feel justice for Breonna is served.
Yesterday was definitely a day of pain and anger. And today we're still in pain and we're still angry.
The anger coming after a grand jury decided not to directly charge any of the officers for Breonna's death. Former officer Brett Hankison was charged with 3 counts of wanton endangerment, a charge for shooting into the apartments nearby, endangering the neighbors.
With the Attorney General's announcement, part of our hope died. Our hope that someone finally would see us, would value us.
While most protests have been peaceful, 2 officers were shot Wednesday during the protest in Kentucky. A suspect is now facing charges. In Seattle, an investigation underway after this video shows an officer pushing his bike over a protester's head. The officer is now on leave. Taylor's family lawyer is calling for the release of the grand jury transcript, which the Attorney General has said he won't make public. The governor of Kentucky now calling for it to be released.
They want to know what evidence did Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron present to that grand jury? Did he present any evidence on behalf of Breonna Taylor?
Breonna Taylor's family is expected to speak on Friday. Laura Acevedo, ABC 10 News.
Now to a 10 News follow-up. We are getting a look at new surveillance video that shows a man allegedly trying to snatch a toddler out of a car in a Costco parking lot. The incident happened over the weekend in Vista. The car was backing out when the man opened the rear passenger door. The driver then jumped out of the car and confronted the man. He was arrested, but he got out of jail the very next day on $100,000 bail. Well, he won't be arraigned until February due to a backlog in cases because of the pandemic.
New at 11, the San Diego State Aztecs will be back on the football field before the end of October. The Mountain West Conference voted to play a shortened 8-game season this fall. It kicks off on October the 24th. There is no word yet on the Aztecs schedule, but the team previously announced that they would play games through next year at the Chargers' old stadium in Carson. Of course, that's because the current stadium in Mission Valley is being torn down and rebuilt as part of San Diego State's expansion.
And the Pac-12 will also play football this fall. It's planning a 7-game season that starts November 6th. And today, the conference reversed its decision to postpone the season until spring, following a similar move by the Big Ten. The men's and women's basketball seasons can start November 25th. The football championship game will be held on December 18th. No fans will be allowed. The Pac-12 said its decision must be approved by state and local public health officials.
Parents hoping to get their kids back in the classroom protested this afternoon against the San Diego Union High School District. Last Thursday, the Board of Trustees voted to extend distance learning through the second half of the school year. But parents say it is time for schools to reopen. Tonight, board members are discussing how the district can expand services to all students while following public health guidelines.
Most of GROSSMONT Union High School students will return to school on Tuesday. The school is working with a blended learning model, which includes both distance and in-campus classes. The district says 68% of the parents requested classroom learning, and those students were split into 4 groups that will stagger being on campus. Each student will have their temperature checked daily. Face masks and physical distancing are required. 32% of GROSSMONT Union High School students will stay at home. And
here are the latest numbers. The county announced another 171 cases today. That brings our total now to 45,500. 20 of the new cases were from San Diego State. There were also 6 new deaths, bringing that total to 773.
And more than 200,000 Americans have died from COVID-19 just 8 months after the nation's first case. President Trump has said the coronavirus vaccine would be ready by Election Day. The Washington Post reports the FDA is set to release, quote, rigorous new rules for drug makers creating vaccines. And this includes monitoring trial volunteers for 2 months after they receive their second dose. President Trump is accusing the FDA of playing politics with the vaccine.
That has to be approved by the White House. We may or may not approve it. That sounds like a political move.
Meantime, Brigham Young University has become the epicenter of an outbreak in Utah. It's now reporting over 1,000 cases since the fall semester began. And now for a Team 10 investigation. Tonight, we are hearing from the family of a Navy medic who died on a Southern California base. At first, the family was told it was a suicide, but now a service member has been charged in connection with his death. Our Jennifer Kastner first broke this story last year, and tonight the family tells her they think it's a cover-up.
We're about to show you a new interview with the deceased corpsman's parents. They have details they have not yet publicly shared about what they say happened the night their son died on base. Jose De Leon and wife Sandra were overcome Thursday, reacting to this week's announcement by the Marines that a service member has been charged and others are being investigated in connection to the death of their son, 30-year-old Navy Corpsman Michael Vincent De Leon. He died last summer on the 29 Palms military base, a few hours northeast of San Diego.
Sandra and I are happy that we can't even be happy, Jen. I mean, it's incredible. I mean,
sometimes I just listen to recordings just to hear his voice.
A Marine spokesperson confirmed Wednesday that one person has been charged with dereliction of duty resulting in death. A hearing has not been set. The parents first contacted ABC 10 News for help after claiming the military stonewalled them from getting answers about their son's death. ABC 10 News then learned from a source with close military ties that Naval Criminal Investigative Service, or NCIS, confirmed the shooting death was being investigated as a homicide, not a suicide, like his parents said they were led to believe.
The phone call from that residence using my son's phone was that it was a suicide.
De Leon said Thursday prosecutors told him the service member charged is a Navy corpsman, a type of medic, who was at a house party on base with his son and other corpsmen. He said prosecutors also told him that some of those corpsmen are likely facing upcoming charges.
We know that the firearm was dry fired at Michael. The firearm was put away, and then it came out again. And according to some statements, they were horsing around, and the firearm came out again, and that's when Michael was killed.
These men need to be held accountable for what they did, for their actions, for their lack of courage, for their lack of honor.
NCIS is not providing any details. A spokesperson reported this week the investigation is still open.
The good news on this is that this long wait has not been in vain.
A spokesperson for the Marines said they are not giving out the names or the ranks of those who may have been involved or what punishment they could face if they're convicted. Jennifer Kastner, ABC 10 News.